Hello, POD friends and family. Welcome to another video all about design. Trends, tips, practices, and so much more. Hi, I'm Leah, and I'm here with Linda.
Hi.
A graphic design expert here at Printify, and she's gonna tell us all about design versatility. Before we jump into creating all sorts of different products though, we would love to hear your feedback down below. And of course, while you're there, like and subscribe. Okay, Linda, let's get started. What is design versatility? What does that mean?
So design versatility is your ability to adapt design to different products based on their function and format. So when designing, you should keep in mind about how large a product is, what it's made of, and how people are going to use it. So the first aspect in terms of design versatility is scale and how you should design for smaller versus larger products. My tip for that would be for smaller products to go for one idea, keep it simple. It could be a small quote or an illustration if people are able to go up close to it, like to this pin. While larger products kind of already work as a part of an interior. So in that case, you should pay attention to the color and pattern. So in this case, you should think of how it can improve a space as well.
Mm-hmm. So is it fair to say then for a small product like a pin, for example, you can just think about the individual product by itself, and with something larger like a shower curtain, you kind of need to think about the surrounding aesthetic and whatever else might be around.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Then another topic about elasticity, in case if you're designing for something AOP, something stretchy like a sock or leggings. In that case, again, I think patterns can work very well. If it's more detailed, then you might even not be able to notice the seams like in the leg. Mm-hmm. And for the socks, if you, for example, decide to go for some sort of illustration, just make sure that it's kind of small enough not to stretch over too large of an area, and so it could work in such a way.
Yeah, I know these can be kind of tricky because if your design, it stretches, it's kind of warped and might look a little funny.
Yeah, so make sure you're able to risk on that and maybe don't use text in that case.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you want to offer different variations of the same design, you should pay attention to the use of color. If it's a black text on a white or light t-shirt, make sure that for dark you reverse it. It might take you some extra time to edit, but make sure that your design stands out on different colors.
I think this is like kind of a common, error that we see a lot, is that people don't take that time to change the colors up a little bit. You can have the same design, but it's going to be hard to see light colors on a white t-shirt, dark colors on a black t-shirt.
Yeah. I was sort of going deeper into the internet and looking at some examples in terms of how you can design for a certain product that's based on scale or elasticity of the material. So the first example I found was shower curtains. So I saw this one with a large quote on it. It's a big text. As I mentioned before, such a large product kind of works better as an interior element. And in that sense, I could recommend using more of a text pattern like here.
Like a more abstract design in that sense.
Yeah.
Although I know you have like a frowny face next to this shower curtain here, but I personally I think it's a little spicy, but it's got good text. But I agree, it might be kind of hard to read, right? It's going to be, unfolded.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And this thing could also work on a towel or something that you could kind of have closer to yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another one is pins. This is a way smaller format. Therefore, I would not recommend to go with a lot of text on it, because now we see it as a big object, but in reality, it's something like this, and some people might not be able to really read it. Mm-hmm. As for pins, I think they're kind of like these small pieces of statements, so you should go for maybe a couple of bold words, and that can make a statement as well. Then another one about pictures. So a lot of people like to personalize their products, and if you would want to make a blanket with some family pics, I would recommend to rather make it a collage. So in that way, you could read it when it's folded. You could still see one image from the product and look at it from different angles, and it could always be readable in some way. While if you have just one image, it's gonna be completely visible only once it's flat and sort of frontal in this way.
This is a really cool concept. I actually haven't seen like a collage on a blanket before, haven't really thought about it, but you do see blankets with like one picture on it all the time, whether it's a joke gift or like a sentimental gift for a family member. But you're right, you only see that picture if it's completely flat on the couch or something, and if it's wrinkled up, you'll see the person's nose or eye or something, whereas the collage, you said it's much more readable. You can see a picture of one or the other, whether it's folded, whether it's wrapped around you. So that's a really cool idea and a really good tip, actually.
Yeah. And then the last one, for an example, it's a bit of a no-brainer, but in case you want to apply an image on a product that is stretchy, I would rather go for smaller pictures, spread out, like in the example on the right, instead of the left one that kind of goes all over the place and you it's a bit hard to understand the original picture there. So for stretchy, elastic materials, maybe like a pattern or, like you said, abstract design would be a little bit better. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But you can still make it personal, of course. And so, instead of cats, you could still use like a person's face. It'll be a little bit more design work, but it would look better as a pattern like this as opposed to one big face kind of stretched out. He doesn't look too happy there. No, he got stretched too far. Okay, so these are really cool. I like the examples that you showed of like good design, bad design. Do you have an example for us kind of one design from a small product through a bigger product? Yeah, so I did some designing on my own, and the idea I had was to make an avocado design that is doing some workouts. I thought this could be quite nice for a sticker, so I made the illustration and just added some text on it. It's just like a simple illustration, some text, and that could work on a small size. Use the same idea and apply it on a bigger design. I thought that avocados and yoga all fall under the same umbrella of lifestyle, and so I went for yoga pants, and in order to do that, I thought that it would be cool to make a pattern out of it. And then I went on and kept drawing the same illustration, just in different poses, doing workout. These are so cute. Yeah. And so out of that, I made a sample for a pattern, something like this. And then further, since I'm designing in Illustrator, it was just easier for me to create a larger format with the pattern on, already ready for the Mockup Generator, like this. So you could either take this one large pattern template, throw it on, cover the whole product, or you said you have the smaller format, you could theoretically put that into the Mockup Generator and then use our pattern tool and kind of a little bit more manually adjust it that way. Yeah. I mean, it's manual either way. Also on Illustrator, I was tweaking it, but our pattern tool works the same way. Can you show us this pattern now onto the leggings? Once the product is done, it turned out like this. So obviously there's some cuts, but since it's a pattern, it just works playfully. One thing that I tend to struggle with, and especially with these patterns, is seams. How do you get it so they kind of like align up correctly, or just they don't look awkward on the seams? So for that, I'm mostly looking at the different views of the product, like this. And then while designing, I make sure I export a large enough format to be able to be a bit more flexible within the Mockup Generator. So if I have the image a bit wider, I can tweak it so to match the seams a bit better, or perhaps scale it up a bit. And in that way, I just figure out how it works. Right, we can see here you gave yourself wiggle room essentially to just shift the pattern if it's a weird cut-off seam or something like that. Yes, exactly. And in that way also, if your elements are smaller, then it's a bit easier to make it work. One thing that I hear that people have an issue with is creating a design that's the right size, like file size for our Mockup Generator. Can you show us how to save a proper design in the correct size or maybe the correct format? If you have the possibility, I would always recommend exporting vector files. So in this case, if I have this guy, I would just export it as an SVG. And then once you have it in the Mockup Generator, you can enlarge it however you like, because it's a vector file and there will be no problem with it.
So SVG, that stands for Scalable Vector Graphic, and basically it just means you can make the design as big or as small without it losing resolution or quality, right?
Yeah. And that works mostly for illustrations, text, make sure everything is outlined, the strokes, and then you're good to go.
And something like this, this template that you made, this pattern template, would you save that as an SVG also?
Then the file size might be a bit too large. So in that case, I was actually exporting it as a PNG, which is a raster format. It has its limits, but if you export it, for example, 2 times, then you're still good to go. I just make sure beforehand that I check the sizing requirements within the product specifications, and then if I have that, then I'm able to make a good enough size. In case if it's like a lot of illustrative elements replicated, then I think a flatter vector raster image would work better.
Okay, so these are some really good tips. Thank you. What final pieces of advice do you have for our viewers?
So if you're in doubt, you can always order a sample, then to make sure that your design really fits the way you like in real life. You could also always have some sort of a thing as a reference, whether it be a piece of paper or an actual print of your design, to sort of see how it looks in real life. Because sometimes when we're on our computers and designing, we zoom in like 500%, and then we think that every detail is important, while in reality, you can sort of look at it in a bit more context.
Thank you very much for the amazing tips and advice as per usual. And I hope you guys now are ready to create a bunch of different types of products, and that creating collections will be a little bit easier for you guys now. As always, let us know what questions you have down below and what other design things you would like to know. And while you're there, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for all your POD design needs.